Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, students. I welcome you all to lecture number 1 of the course of Basic Electronics. The major course contents that we are going to cover in this course includes diodes, field effect transistors, and operational amplifiers. We will not only be studying the theory of these topics, but we will also be doing practical numericals of these circuits. So let's begin. Okay, before we formally begin with our study of this course, let us start with the basic difference between electrical and electronic devices. So, a layman's definition or the difference between the electrical and electronic devices is that electrical devices work on very high voltage and very high currents. And of course, if they are consuming very high voltage and very high current, then they can be called as high power devices. In the same manner, electronic devices work on very low voltage, very low amount of current in the order of milliampere, and of course when they have low voltage and low current, they are called as low power devices. Example of electrical device can be old televisions, the cathode ray tube televisions which used to be much larger in size. And examples of electronic devices can be our monitor, our mobile phone, our tablets, etc. Okay, after this we will discuss the different types of material which are available. Of course, you might have studied this topic in your intermediate, and of course you might all know what the different types of materials are, but I would like to give you a quick recap of all the things of intermediate that will be required as a part of the basis of basic electronics subject. So let us see what is a conductor. Those materials which allow sufficiently large amount of current to flow through them without any hindrance are called as conductors, and they do so under normal circuit conditions, like we only need to apply the voltage over the material, no special temperature, no special pressure and other atmospheric conditions are required for it. Most of the metals are good conductors of electricity, like copper, iron, steel, etc. The other type of material is the insulator. Those materials which do not allow any current to flow through them under normal circuit conditions or even at special circuit conditions are called as insulators. This means that if you apply any kind of voltage to the insulator, even under normal circuit condition or at some special pressure, some special temperature, it is usually impossible that the insulator will start conduction. It will not give you any flow of current. Examples can be ceramic, glass, plastic, rubber, etc. The third type of the material is the semiconductor material, which we are actually interested in. Semiconductor materials are those materials which have properties between that of the conductor and insulator, and these materials also do not require as such any special temperature or pressure or any other atmospheric condition for the conduction of electricity. They have moderate flow of current as compared to conductor, and the good thing in them is that the conductive properties can be controlled, like we can control how much amount of current should flow through a specific piece of semiconductor material at equilibrium or under normal circuit conditions, right? In very simple terms, the conductive properties of semiconductor materials can be tailored, can be altered with the help of a process called doping that we will be discussing shortly. Examples of semiconductor materials with single elements are silicon and germanium, and compound semiconductors include gallium arsenide, indium phosphide. Now let us see what are the different types of semiconductor materials. You have heard that we can add elements of different groups into the original semiconductor material. So if you have any semiconductor material, for example silicon, over which no other element into which no other element has been added, then that semiconductor material can be called as an intrinsic semiconductor. It means that a semiconductor in its purest form without the addition of any other element is called as an intrinsic semiconductor. However, when we add atoms from other groups to the semiconductor material, the resultant material is called as extrinsic semiconductor material. Now we will shortly see why do we basically add elements of different groups to the semiconductor material. Before we move any further, let us see the forbidden gap or the band gap or the energy gap of the three different materials that we have just studied. First of all, forbidden gap or the energy gap is represented with the symbol EG. Here it is written. Then this is showing the results for insulator. This is for semiconductor and this is for conductor. On the y-axis we have energy. It is very clear in the conductor that the valence and the conduction band overlap each other in case of a conductor, as a result of which all those valence electrons which are present in the valence band are equally present in the conduction band and are free and ready to conduct the current. That is why the current carrying capability of a conductor is very high, because all the electrons available in the valence band are already present in the conduction band. Just the application of voltage will cause current to flow through the device. Now let us see the band diagram or the energy gap diagram of insulator. You can easily see that the valence band and the conduction band are quite far away from each other in case of insulator. This is because this is the reason that insulators do not conduct any current, because in order to move any electron from valence band to the conduction band, we need to provide a very large energy. This simply means that if I try to apply the voltage and expect that the insulator will start will start conduction, then it is not possible, because first of all I should provide energy side by side to overcome the band gap difference between the valence and the conduction band. First of all, we need to apply this much amount of energy so that the electrons of valence band jump to the conduction band, and then further energy should be applied for the current conduction. In reality, this difference of energy between the conduction and valence band of an insulator is a very large value that cannot be provided easily, and even if somehow it is provided, then it is not feasible to provide and spend too much amount of energy just to run a small circuit. So we just have seen that the insulators are not used for the creation of for the controlled current capability. Now we see the semiconductor, where we can clearly see that the valence band and conduction band are not too far and not too close to each other. Just some small amount of energy can be provided to move the electrons from the valence band to the conduction band, and this material can start conduction easily. So this is our preferred material. We will be studying its detail in the upcoming slides and lectures. Before we move any further, let us try to observe the behavior of silicon atom at two different temperatures. By two different temperatures, I mean to say that I will be studying the atom of silicon at the absolute temperature, and you all should know that absolute temperature is a hypothetical temperature that cannot be reached in real life. The other temperature at which I will be studying this atom is the room temperature. This temperature, of course, is reachable as it's easily available in our homes, offices, etc. Let us see how the silicon diode will behave when it will be kept at absolute temperature. I'm sorry, I think I said diode. Let us see how the silicon atom will behave. It will be kept at the absolute temperature. This diagram shows that the silicon atoms has an atomic number of 14. The first shell has 2 electrons, the second shell has 8 electrons, the third shell has 4 electrons, and this third shell is actually the valence band of the silicon material. This diagram clearly shows that when the temperature is absolute temperature, in that case all of the valence electrons will be residing in the valence band stably. समझ आ गई कि एब्सोल्यूट टेम्परेचर पे सारे बैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन स्टेबल हालत में अपने बैंड में पड़े होंगे. नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज दिस टेम्परेचर रीचेबल? हैज समवन एवर रीच दिस टेम्परेचर? नो. So this means that if this temperature is not reached, if this temperature cannot be reached, then the behavior which says that all the electrons will be stably sitting in the valence band, this is also not possible. ना तो एब्सोल्यूट टेम्परेचर पॉसिबल है, और जब एब्सोल्यूट टेम्परेचर पॉसिबल नहीं है तो ये भी पॉसिबल नहीं है कि तमाम इलेक्ट्रॉन्स खामोशी से वैलेंस बैंड में स्टेबल होकर बैठे रहें. Now what is the real scenario? Let us see that. The real scenario is that at room temperature, the room temperature is actually serving as a high temperature for the silicon or the semiconductor atoms. This means that at room temperature there is enough thermal energy present so that the electrons present in the valence band receive the room temperature's heat energy. As a result, some of the electrons get excited, they get more energy, and when they get more energy, they jump into the conduction band. This all is actually happening at room temperature. I mentioned earlier, room temperature serves as a high temperature for the semiconductor material, and at that temperature valence band electrons cannot sit stably in their band, and some of them acquire energy and they jump to the valence band. When they jump to the valence band, they leave a deficiency of electron at the back, which is called as a hole. So as soon as the energy of the free electron gets reduced again, it jumps back and falls back into the hole it created. This process keeps on going inside the silicon atoms, and one after the other electrons keep going to the conduction band and keep coming back to the conduction band. So they are not sitting stably in the valence band. Now there are few definitions which are related to the behavior of silicon at room temperature. The first definition is electron hole pair. When an electron in the valence band of silicon at room temperature gains energy, it becomes a free electron and leaves a hole at its back. This creation of free electron and the free hole is called as the electron hole pair, because they are the pair कि एक इलेक्ट्रॉन यहाँ से जंप किया और इसकी जगह जो खाली हुई, इन दोनों का पेयर जो है वो इलेक्ट्रॉन होल पेयर कहलाता है. The time taken by the electron to go from valence band to the conduction band and then staying there until it goes back to the valence band is called as the lifetime. Again repeating, time taken by the electron to move from valence band to the conduction band and then staying there, not coming back, and then staying there, this time duration is called as the lifetime. Okay, now after the loss of energy, the electron when jumps back into the hole it created, this jumping back of the electron into the hole it created is called as recombination. All these three definitions which I just discussed or explained are mentioned here. You can learn the definitions from here. Based on the details that we have just studied, there are few points that we should consider. I told you that a silicon atom at room temperature considers that room temperature is a high temperature, and as a result its valence electrons keep on attaining energy from the atmosphere. They jump to the conduction band, and when they lose their energy they jump back to the valence band, and this process goes on for the valence electrons in a random manner. This actually tells us that any piece of silicon without any other element added, without any doping done, this piece of silicon contains free carriers because of the presence of room temperature, which is considered high for semiconductors. यानी कि semiconductor material में we haven't done any kind of doping, but still we learned that, we read that the electrons keep on going from the valence band to the conduction band, staying there and coming back. This shows that the electrons are getting free and going to the conduction band without any doping, without any other element added. So I can say that at room temperature a piece of pure silicon will contain free carriers, and it contains equal number of free carriers. It means that it has equal number of electrons and holes, because whatever number of electrons are jumping to the conduction band, the exact number of holes are getting produced in the valence band. Since the number of electrons and holes which are free is equal in nature, they are roughly cancelling each other and they conduct negligible current. So what we see, that despite of the fact that a silicon in its pure form does have equal number of free electrons and holes, but because of the fact that they are equal in number, it conducts negligible current. So what we do after doping, that we either increase the number of the free electrons in the material, or we increase the number of holes in the material to increase the conducting properties of the silicon material. And it is also important to note that at room temperature the number of free carriers in silicon material is not 1, 2 or 3. It is equivalent to 1.5 into 10 raised to the power free carriers per centimeter cube. यानी कि रूम टेम्परेचर पे सिलिकॉन के अंदर इतने कैरियर्स 1 सेंटीमीटर क्यूब के अंदर मौजूद होंगे. दिस इज़ रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय द सिंबल Ni, एंड Ni स्टैंड्स फॉर इंट्रिंसिक कैरियर concentration of silicon. Now here I have mentioned you the intrinsic carrier concentration of silicon, you have to search for the same number for germanium. You have to find the intrinsic carrier concentration for the germanium material from Google. Learn it, find it. I will be asking it in any upcoming class. Okay, now let us start with doping. We have already seen that a semiconductor material in its purest form contains free electrons and holes, and due to their equal number the current it carries is negligible. Therefore, I told you that we either increase the number of electrons or we increase the number of holes to enhance the conducting property of the material. So we add other group member elements of other groups to the semiconductor material to enhance its conducting properties. This addition of other element to the semiconductor material is basically called as doping. Now there are two different types of doping. Number one is the donor doping and number two is the acceptor doping. Let us see the donor doping first. Donor, as the name suggests, simply means that something will be donated, कुछ दिया जाएगा. First of all, when we add the elements of group 5A to the semiconductor material, then such a doping is called as a donor doping. The group 5 elements have a valency of 5. That is why they are called as pentavalent elements. When we add them to the semiconductor material, this is called donor doping. Examples of pentavalent elements include phosphorus and antimony. Here I have given you the example of antimony, that whenever any antimony atom will be added in the semiconductor material, such a bonded structure will be created. Antimony has 5 electrons in the valence shell. Every silicon has 4 electrons in the valence shell. When antimony atoms come in the semiconductor material, it arranges itself in between the silicon atom such that it contributes 1 electron with one of the neighboring silicon atom. हर के साथ इसने एक को combine किया and then its octet gets completed. As a result, its 5th electron starts serving as a free electron. So, pentavalent elements are called as donor impurity because of the fact that whatever number of pentavalent element is added to the semiconductor material, they will donate same number of electron to the सेमीकंडक्टर मटेरियल. यानी कि अगर मैंने अपने सेमीकंडक्टर मटेरियल के अंदर एक एंटीमनी एटम ऐड किया, इट विल बी डोनेटिंग 1 फ्री इलेक्ट्रॉन टू द सेमीकंडक्टर मटेरियल. सिमिलरली इफ आई ऐड 5 antimony atoms, they will be donating 5 free electrons to my material. In this way, since the antimony atom is donating free electron to the semiconductor material, therefore this type of element is called as a donor impurity, as it donates its electron to the semiconductor. Now what is the effect of this free electron? Inside the semiconductor material, we will not be adding just one antimony atom but multiple antimony atoms. So they will be donating multiple free electrons to the semiconductor material, resulting in a material which has excess of free electrons. So because of the addition of the donor doping or the pentavalent elements, we get a material which has excess of electrons, and that material is actually called as an n-type semiconductor material. It is important to note that previously, before the addition of The pentavalent element, the semiconductor material, contained equal number of free electrons and holes. After the doping of the pentavalent element, we have increased the number of free electrons, but we haven't removed the free holes. मैं इस वक्त ये बात नहीं करी कि इलेक्ट्रॉन और होल कंबाइन होकर एक दूसरे को लॉस्ट कर देंगे, नहीं. आई एम सेइंग कि पेंटावेलेंट के ऐड होने से पहले इलेक्ट्रॉन और होल्स की तादाद बराबर बराबर थी मटेरियल में. नाउ आफ्टर द एडिशन ऑफ द पेंटावेलेंट एलिमेंट, द नंबर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हैव इंक्रीज्ड. Therefore, I can say that the majority carriers in the n-type material are electron, while minority carriers in the n-type material are hole. N-type material will not only contain free electrons but less number of holes as well, and they are called as minority carriers. So if we try to represent the number of the pentavalent element or the dopant atoms as Nd, then whatever be the number of the atoms, they will be equal to the number of free electrons in the material. Now let us see this equation. This Nd represents the number of, suppose the pentavalent element like antimony, जितने भी आपने डोपेंट के एटम्स डाले ये उसकी नंबर को इंडिकेट कर रहा है. एंड दिस एन एन नॉट represents, this capital N represents the number of free electron, this subscript N represents what is the type of the material, and this not represents the behavior at equilibrium. So what we see that the number of the pentavalent elements will be equivalent to the number of free electrons in the n material at equilibrium. Equilibrium पे जितने एटम्स आप डालेंगे उतने फ्री इलेक्ट्रॉन जनरेट हो जाएंगे. अच्छा, अगर n नॉट, if it is representing free electrons in n material, then try to see what will be Pn naught. It will be the number of holes in the n material at equilibrium. Pn naught will be indicating the number of holes in n material at equilibrium. So within a semiconductor material or within an n-type material, the number of electrons which are in majority and the number of holes which are in minority is always equivalent to the square of intrinsic carrier concentration. We read this number in the previous slide. Okay, so we can say that if I know the number of Nn naught, because it is equal to the value of the number of dopant atoms, and if I know the value of this Ni for silicon, then I can easily find the number of free electrons, free holes which are present in an n-type material at equilibrium. Also important thing to note is any n-type material has no charge, it is neutral in nature. This is because the antimony is coming in the semiconductor material with its equal number of electrons and protons. Similarly, the silicons which are already present in the semiconductor material also have equal number of electrons and protons. Now when the antimony and the silicon are making bonds together, their electron and their proton both remain within the same material. The electron is not going away. Okay, the electron is becoming free and moving freely over the whole material, but the number of electrons of silicon are balanced by the number of neutrons of silicon. Similarly, I said proton, neutrons, it should be proton. Okay, similarly, the number of electrons of antimony are equally balanced by the number of protons inside the nucleus of antimony. All of them are lying together inside the same material, so total electronic charge will be balanced by the total positive charge, resulting in no charge over the n-type material. This means that n-type material में फ्री इलेक्ट्रॉन तो होते हैं, बट इट डजेंट हैव एनी नेगेटिव और पॉजिटिव चार्ज ओवर इट. नाउ लेट अस ट्राई टू सी the other type of doping, which is called as the acceptor doping. As the name suggests, in this type of material, the material will have the ability to accept something, and that will be an electron. This type of doping is done by the elements of group 3 whose valency is trivalent, they are trivalent, whose valency is 3. Example of elements of group 3 or the trivalent elements is boron. Boron has 3 valence electrons in the outermost shell. When it is added to the semiconductor silicon material, then on the 4 neighboring sides the silicon atoms make pair with it. However, the 4th electron that was to be provided by the boron is unavailable. Therefore, this bonded structure remains in the it remains or tries to obtain any free electron in its hole to complete its octet, this octet. So since it has the ability to gain electron, this is called, this material or the trivalent elements are called as the acceptor impurities, as they have the tendency to accept an electron. Now similar to the N material, this material is also neutral. For example, this silicon material has equal number of electrons and protons in its nucleus. This has the same situation, this has the same situation, this has the same situation, and this boron in fact also has the same situation. It has equal number of electrons and protons inside its nucleus. So overall, this material, it may have a deficiency of electron, but whatever electrons which are already present in this material are already balanced by the protons present inside their nucleuses. That is why this material is also chargeless and is neutral. So now we see that within the new material which is formed after this doping, there will be multiple boron atoms and there will be multiple such structures present in the material. So whatever be the number of boron will be the number of holes present in the circuit. जितने बोरॉन एटम आप डालेंगे उतने ही होल्स क्रिएट होंगे और इलेक्ट्रॉन्स को गेन करने की जगह मौजूद होगी. Therefore, the resultant material which is generated is called as. Now we realize that the addition of boron atoms or the trivalent atoms in the semiconductor material results in addition of more and more holes. Therefore, the resultant material is called as the p-type material. We should not forget that before doping, the material contained equal number of electrons and holes, and here we are adding boron to increase the number of holes. Therefore, they will be called as the majority carriers in the p material, and the electrons will be called as the minority carriers in the p material. Now if I represent that the number of trivalent atoms which are added in the material, if it is represented by Na, then the number of free holes in the material will also be equal to the number of atoms. Means that this P shows the number of free holes, this subscript shows in the p-type material, and this not shows at equilibrium. This means that the number of free holes or the majority carriers in the material is equal to the number of atoms of boron which are added into the material. Now related to this, let us see the number of free electrons and how they can be represented. The number of free electrons in the p material at equilibrium can be represented as Np naught, and the product of these, the number of holes and the number of minority carriers in the material, should be equivalent to the square of Ni square. So if I know the value of pp naught, because this is the number of boron atoms added, and if I know the value of Ni square, then I can easily calculate the value of Np naught, the number of electrons, minority electrons within the p-type material. So here we are done with our lecture number 1. I would suggest all of you to please note down the questions that arise in your mind during this lecture, and you can even forward me before the live session, or you can direct inform me during the live session, so that we can go through it and get all the things cleared. Okay, Allah Hafiz.